So a huge game of international rugby taking place this weekend. South Africa going head-to-head up against Ireland. This is a massive game with massive bragging rights on the line for these two sides too. They have had quite the rivalry, and the Springboks have achieved so much just in the last little while. But one thing that they haven't been able to do in recent times is beat the Irish at the Aviva, and I have put together a Springbok lineup that I feel would be more than strong enough to get the job done here. Of course, Rassie, he has announced his side on Thursday. There'll be a few curveballs in there. I've kind of thrown in a couple of my own too for this lineup, but overall, who is selected in this game could be absolutely crucial for the outcome of the contest. But of course, let me know who you guys would like to see in the lineup in the comments down below as well. But jumping straight into it, front row, I have gone number 1, Bohan Venter. Now, in Rassie's actual lineup, I'm not sure whether we're going to see Bohan Venter, mainly because he has been taken off the field early in the last 2 matches. In the last match up against the Italians, it was to try and counter the fact that the Springboks had the red card, but for me personally, I would still give Bohan Venter the chance in this contest, although Thomas du Toit looking like a very good option for that number 1 jersey as well. Number 2, Malcolm Marx. For me, there is no debate here, even though Johan Rovelaar did extremely well in the last match up against the Italians, getting himself the start in that match and going for the 80 minutes. But Malcolm Marx, I mean, he is in some phenomenal form at the moment. He has got those lethal turnovers back that he was getting consistently all throughout last year. There was a little patch earlier on in 2025 how he went a few games without getting that big one, but now he's getting them each and every game, and he will certainly get one up against the Irish too. And at number 3, this is my first, I would say, curveball of my lineup. I've gone Azanathi Klabakanye in this number 3 jersey. He did recently play for the Barbarians up against the All Blacks 15. He was called into the squad for Oxenshire, and the main reason I've gone with Klabakanye is because you want Wilco Low near the end of the game off of that bench to add that extra scrum dominance. But if you have Klabakanye out there up against Andrew Porter, who for many is a bit of a 50-50 scrummager, he does get penalised quite a bit. So if you've got a big tank of an individual like Klabakanye right up in his face in those scrums, I think that the Boks would get themselves on the right track from the very early stages of the contest with this front row. But moving on to the locking jaw, this is actually very difficult, and it's still difficult without Franco Mostert and Ludiacha. For the Springboks, they have got 4 locks, but sadly only 3 of them, theoretically, will be able to play. In this matchup, they've got Argus Snyman, Eben Etzebeth, Ruan Nokia, and Jean Klein. Now, in the last contest, we saw Jean Klein. He did nothing wrong in that number 4 jersey, but for this contest, it is going to either be Snyman or it will be Eben Etzebeth. For myself, I've gone a little bit different here, and I've gone Argus Snyman as my starting number 4. Now, it was mentioned after that lineup prediction that we did for Rassie that this is going to be the 50th test match for Snyman here. And we do know with Rassie, normally they will get themselves the start. So in my own personal lineup, I've decided to follow suit. Eben Etzebeth, that means that he is going to be making his way off of the bench. When Ireland start to get that little bit more tired, that is when Etzebeth could be at his most dangerous. And I also feel like Ruan Nokia at the moment, from the way that he's played throughout this year, he thoroughly deserves a start up against the Irish. So my locking duo, Argus Snyman and Ruan Nokia as the 2 locks. I do feel they would do well at scrum time alongside Malcolm Marx. Of course, Argus Snyman, but similar to what we saw for Geordie Barrett for the All Blacks up against the Irish. He's got that inside knowledge of those Leinster players. He is heading back there for the URC in the very near future, so he would love nothing more than to have the bragging rights over a lot of his teammates for that competition. But jumping into the loose forward trio, this is where I believe what I would like to see is exactly what 99% of people are predicting for Rassie's side. That is Siya Kolisi as the number 6, as well as being captain for the Springboks team. Number 7, Pieter-Steph du Toit, and number 8, Jasper Wiese. Pieter-Steph du Toit, he is going to be a handful in this contest, and the Irish, they have got some formidable loose forwards in their mix as well, whether that's Caelan Doris, who recently came back from his injury, whether that's Conan, Josh van der Flair. They've got plenty of guys who can win that ball in the breakdown and also have that big piercing run that could create the line break for this Irish team. But Jasper Wiese, boy is he physical. I say it each and every time, that man just doesn't know how to not go at 150%. And a player like Jasper Wiese, each and every time he takes to the field, he will put absolutely everything into that Springbok jersey. The man does not know how to take a backward step or even go a little bit slower in a contest. He is 150 right from the get-go and a great player to have for the Springboks in this matchup. But moving on to my backline, number 9, Kobus Reinach, number 10, Sasha Feinberg, Mngome Zulu. I was very tempted to go with Grant Williams and Mani Libok here, but the way that Reinach and Sasha have been able to destroy opposition defenses, it just makes it too difficult not to select them. Now, I will mention, because this is my own personal lineup, that comes with my own personal tactics, and I can tell you right now, Sasha in this match, he would not be playing that kicking game like we saw early on up against the French. I would be going with the tactics that we saw later in that contest where he was allowed to run the ball. He's already had, I believe, over 300 running meters throughout the November internationals, and you can understand exactly why. When that man gets possession, he just finds a way through, scores tries for fun. We saw that in the match up against the Japanese, and Reinach, even with the occasional mistake, he does still do a lot of things right, and he actually complements Sasha very nicely. So that is the 9-10 combination I would go with in this match. In the centres, I have made a little bit of a switch compared to my Rasi prediction. I've got number 12, Damian Dialendi, and number 13, Kanan Moody. Now, nothing against Jesse Creel whatsoever, and if he was in that 13 jersey alongside Damian Dialendi, just like we saw up against Le Bleu, you would see clinical defence, some very nice ball distribution, and overall a very solid match from Jesse Creel. But Kanan Moody has that X factor, and he is the future for the Springboks, so giving him a massive opportunity here up against the Irish, I feel would build his confidence moving forward. He has got some great attacking skill. He can cover on the wing if there were any sort of injuries with this side, which I feel like is substantial, seeing as 6-2 split off the bench with the Andre Este as an inclusion in there as well. But I think that even though Moody gets a little bit of criticism for his defence, having him alongside Damian Dialendi just seems like that is enough cover to be able to let him play his natural game and show off that skill when the Springboks have the ball. But that moves me on to the back three. Number 11, I've gone Ethan Hooker. A little bit of the same reasoning as what I mentioned for Kanan Moody. He's a young player. He's had quite the season. Ethan Hooker, I know that he is definitely right up there in terms of the nominations for Breakthrough Player of the Year. He's had those opportunities up against New Zealand in which some people were questioning Rasi's decision, but it turned out to be a great one as Hooker's found his feet at international level. He did play 12 in the last contest, but just for now, I prefer him out on the wing. There is also a little bit of debate going on whether or not Kutli Arendse will even be playing in this contest. The other option out on the left, who I was very close to selecting, is Edwald van der Merwe, but I decided to go with youth here, so I went with Ethan Hooker. Number 14, I have gone with experience here, and that is Cheslin Colby. And then at number 15, Damian Willemse. Maybe it is just because of the fact that I keep on confusing those men with their headgear as to why I've got one of those three in my back three for this contest. But Cheslin up against James Lowe, when you talk about head-to-heads, that for me is one of the most crucial throughout this contest. Whoever gets the better of that one, more than likely their side will be winning. In this match, Damian Willemse, I was tempted to move him to 12 and maybe have a bit of a reshuffle in the back line, but I've decided to keep him at 15 purely because of his defending. What we saw from him in the last match up against the Italians was nothing short of brilliance from Damian Willemse. He has been criticised a little bit for his defensive positioning, but up against the Italians, he was in the right place at the right time pretty much every time. Throughout that game, he was taking those kicks when Italy were going in behind with the chips and the grubbers. He was covering everything, and also on attack, he was looking extremely dangerous for the Boks as well. But that is my starting lineup. So overall, I think a few changes compared to what we would see from Rassie Erasmus in this scenario. And overall, my bench, I believe, will be pretty similar. But I have still got one or two little tricks up the sleeve for this bench here as well. Starting in the front row, number 16, Bongi Mbonambi. Now, hear me out. I know that some people say that Bongi is too old and that now that he hasn't been consistently in the Springbok environment, they are looking at those new younger options. I mentioned how Johan Krobela had one of his best performances up against the Italians, but Bongyo Manambi, for me, had one of his best performances up against the New Zealand 15 for the Barbarians in quite some time. So for that reasoning, and also for the fact that this is the type of game that has potential of going right down to the wire, you want someone who's been there, who's done that, who's won a couple World Cups, and Bongyo Manambi, for me, is that guy that you put as the number 16 in this contest. Number 17, Gerard Sterka. Oh, that was so close. That was probably the best that I've said his first name, and then I butchered the second name, unfortunately, but Gerhard Stennekamp is that number 17, and then number 18, Wilco Low. That man is a handful. That is for sure. He is going to cause all sorts of problems later on in the game. He does partner very well with Stennekamp, seeing as both men are from the Bulls, but it would definitely be a scenario where you aren't losing anything by making those front row replacements. In fact, some would argue that you're gaining more when you bring these two men onto the field. For the rest of the replacement forwards, I've got number 19, Eben Etzebeth, number 20, Andre Estes, and still playing him as that hybrid player, which he has done extremely well throughout 2025, and then number 21, Huacha Smith. A lot of versatility between Esterhuizen and Smith. You've also got that experience of Eben Etzebeth at 19, bit similar to why I put Bongyo Manambi off of the bench, because he's been in these type of scenarios. Now, normally Etzebeth has been in this scenario in a starting lineup, but when you look at someone like a Tyke Byrne, I would much rather see Eben Etzebeth going head-to-head with him when Byrne is tired, rather than when both men are fresh. I know that Etzebeth is another one that's received a bit of criticism throughout 2025. People saying he's starting to slow down just a little bit. Now, of course, you don't say that to his face because he'll absolutely fucking crack you. But I do think that Etzebeth up against a slightly fatigued Tyke Byrne, everyone will see exactly how dangerous that man can be and exactly why he's got that nickname of the Enforcer, because late in a game could be extremely handy for the Springboks side. Number 22, this is where I have gone with Grant Williams, and number 23, Mani Libbok. Now, this is one of those jerseys that you could honestly go either way. You either put Libbok there if you're going for more of an attacking tactic near the end of the contest, or you go with Andre Pollard for the security of the kicking tee and just being able to control the match as it comes to a close. So either way, you've got a great option there at number 23. Personally, I would go in the direction of Mani Libbok, mainly because of the aggressive attacking style that I would like the starting lineup to be playing in this contest, as I don't think many sides in World Rugby at this point in time do that dangerous attack quite like the Springboks do. But nonetheless, that is my 23 that I would love to see play the Irish. Now, quick disclaimer, this is not what I think Rassi will be selecting for his lineup. In fact, I would say there's at least 5 to 10 changes that we will see from Rassi compared to this team. But of course, like I said, let me know who you would like to see play up against the Irish. As soon as the side is announced on Thursday, South African time, we will be letting you know exactly who made the side. But I do thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.